The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing again? This is Matt Brown from NST. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about SharePoint and Yammer. We're going to start in just about 1 minute. Let some people join in. So we're going to start in just about 1 minute. Alrighty. Again, this is Matt from NST. Thanks for having a late lunch with us today. Again, like I always do, I hope everybody out there is healthy and safe and continues to be so. So I started just with an image of Chevy Chase doing his Saturday Night Live weekend update, which I happen to love. So I just thought something funny to throw up there to start. So today we are talking about SharePoint and Yammer. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share out my screen here. So a couple of quick things. So first with SharePoint. There is a misnomer, right? So SharePoint a few years ago was a little on the difficult to use side. It was web-based. You had to log into a web browser. You had to download the file. You had to work on the file locally and then re-upload the file into SharePoint. You do not do that anymore. It is much easier to use. In fact, for us here at NST, all of our file storage is now stored in SharePoint. I'm going to show you a little bit about how we use it. Also, keep in mind that too is this. SharePoint is a file document management system that still needs maintenance. It still needs permissions. It still needs to be set up by user. So it is something that the NST team can help you with, but it probably is not something you should take on trying to do yourself. I have seen scenarios where customers have tried to do that, then permissions either get screwed up or files should be shared that shouldn't be shared, and so on and so forth. Okay, with that being said, let's jump into SharePoint. We're going to show you SharePoint and Yammer. So SharePoint is a web-based application. It does sync with your local machine. I'm going to show you that. There is also a mobile app you can download to your phone. So here I've logged into Office 365. Okay. I have all my apps up here that I use a lot. So I'm going to click into SharePoint. And here we are. Okay. So just like in everything else in Office 365, everything is group-based. So we talked a little bit last week about teams. Teams is based upon a group. We talked about Planner. Planner is typically based upon a group. SharePoint, definitely based upon a group. So again, when you create a group in Office 365, it does a couple of things. One is it does create your SharePoint site, and then two, it does create your team, okay? So at NST, we have everything, all of our departments have their own SharePoint site. All of our documents are stored inside that site by department. And again, you can have access to more than one team or one group or one SharePoint site. You can have access to one, you can have access to five, you can have access to all of them, okay? So here we are, we're looking at this, right? And I can scroll through the different SharePoint sites that I have access to, okay? And these are all of our internal SharePoint sites. I'm going to take it to the demo one that I set up to show you how it works. So this is typically what a SharePoint site looks like. Again, typically for me, I am typically not coming in here to the web browser at all to look at SharePoint. I'm going to show you how I access the documents, but I do want to show you kind of what the back end looks like to start, okay? So first is we are looking at the NST demo SharePoint site. This is the home, right? So we're at the home page, okay? You can see over here that I am following this site, right? So if I click on this button, it will stop following me, okay? I then can see the members in here, right? So we have 7 members here that use this demo site, okay? On the home page, I just put a link to our website, which is what you see here, right? And we have 146 views on it, right? On the left-hand side, you'll see a couple of items here. So conversations, this is basically all messages inside of Teams, inside of SharePoint, anything like that that has been going around about this particular site, okay, in this particular group. The Teams, right? So this basically will take me to Microsoft Teams, right, for this particular group, okay? Documents, okay? So here's the one big point with documents is when I create the SharePoint site, it automatically creates this documents folder, okay? This documents folder really is based upon what data is stored inside of Teams, right? So if I click on this for a second, it's gonna take me to a folder structure, but this folder structure is really what's inside of Teams for this particular group. I'm just gonna wait until my site reloads, okay? So these are all folders that are stored inside of Teams, again, for this particular group. So when people ask me, hey, I saved a file in Teams, where does it get stored? It gets stored here. And then people ask me, hey, I created a channel in Teams. Yes, when you create a channel in Teams, these are the different channels. So every time you create a channel, it creates a folder in here, okay? So when we set up a folder structure inside of SharePoint, we don't use this because, again, this is created from Microsoft Teams. We actually do create a document library, which is what I'm going to show you next, okay? So if I come in here into a document library, I have a couple of folders, right? So again, these are folders that we have set up, okay? It's got nothing to do with Microsoft Teams, but it is data that is stored in SharePoint that this group has access to. Typically, when we do set up permissions on a site, once you have access to the site, you do have access to all of the folders inside of the site. We can set up permissions to where if I didn't want a user specifically having access to this demo 1 folder, we can do that. It does make the setup a little bit more complex, and it also makes the maintenance a little bit complex. I typically try to make people say, okay, so if we're creating this group called NST demo site, any one of these 7 members should have access to the data that's inside there. Sometimes I know when it comes to financial and sensitive data, that is not always possible. So we can set permissions inside here. Again, it just makes it a little bit more complex in maintaining and in setup. So again, so if I click on any one of these folders, I can see the data that's inside here, okay? So I have access that created these 2 quick documents, one an Excel spreadsheet, one a Word document. And if I do click on it, it will take me to that spreadsheet. And I can edit it right here in Microsoft Online. Okay, I don't have to hit the save button or anything like that. It will say saved automatically, and when I'm done with this spreadsheet, I can just exit out of this. Okay, so, and then you'll see, hey, look, that was modified a few seconds ago by me. Okay, and that's the good thing about this too, is that it will show you basically, you know, who was the last person that touched the document, about when, and who it was. It's not going to show you what I changed inside that particular file, but it will show you that I was the last person to access it. Okay, staying here on the left-hand side, right? So the other thing that's in here is a notebook. So we have not gone through OneNote, but OneNote is another Microsoft application that allows for people to share notes, meeting notes, task items, stuff like that. So every time you set up a SharePoint site, there is a notebook that multiple people can access at the same time. Then we have pages. So these would be the SharePoint pages. So like the pages that we have, if I show you quickly, there's a home page, and then there's that NST link to the NST website, which I showed you that's sitting on the home page, okay? Site contents, again, is everything that's on the SharePoint site, everything, all folders, data, everything like that. And then anything that has been deleted would be inside a recycle bin. So coming back to the document library for a second. So a couple of things here, right? So number one is if the data is stored inside of SharePoint, the good thing about it is if you are using the version of Microsoft Office that you have with your subscription, meaning that you are subscribing to the desktop copy of Office, multiple people can access the files at the same time. And the good thing about this is if I was, again, coming back in here to, oops, sorry, wrong one. If I was coming back to this demo sheet, right? And right now I am the only one in it. As soon as this loads, okay, I am the only one in it, okay? But if I was to do this, let me just do this. So if I'm going to open this up in the desktop app, so what this is doing is this is taking that particular file and it's saying it's loading up Excel on my machine. And again, I'm looking at this file. And you'll see up on here, up on top here, I am the only one in this file. If there were other people signed into this particular file, you would see them listed here, right? So you could see anyone who has access to this file in there. And the other thing too is that you'll see what cell they're in, because I'm particularly here in green. If there was another person in this file, they may be in this cell and you would see them in pink or blue or something like that. So you can actually see what they're changing live. So this really makes, Word documents and Excel documents very collaborative because multiple people can be accessing the file at the same time. In addition, you can actually see what they're changing live right there on your screen. So that works out very nicely, especially when you're talking about, I see people in finance always using the same file, or hey, can you get out of that file? I need to access it, things like that. Here in this case, you don't need to do that anymore, okay? Okay, so I'm going to close this for a second. I'm going to go back into SharePoint. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close this. Okay, so a couple of quick things, right? So the first thing is people always ask me, I don't want to have to come to SharePoint, log into Office 365, navigate to the site that I want to get access to, go to the folder structure, click on this file that's going to open on my desktop, and then I have access to it. Way too many clicks. And I totally agree with that, right? And Microsoft agreed with that. So then what they did is they put this sync button up here, okay? So what this sync button is this is going to allow me to have access to this document library from Windows Explorer. So I'm going to open up Windows Explorer for a second, right? And if most people see, hey, look, you have your P drive, your R drive, your S drive, your N drive, and I leave these as the red X's for a reason because we don't use them anymore, right? But I leave them in here for my demo. What happens is when you click that sync button, it takes that folder structure and it syncs it and it puts it in here inside of SharePoint, basically in cloud storage, inside of NST. And here are all the NST sites by department. Remember, everything we do is by department, right? The ones that I want to sync with my machine, okay? Now, the good thing about this is I'm going to look at the demo document library again, okay? Is I'm going to come in here. Here are those two folders, right? So you're going to see a couple of things, right? So you're going to see these two checkboxes, okay? So what this means, right, is this checkbox means that I have opened something, right, inside of this folder, or I've created this folder locally from my machine, okay? This demo folder, right, I did not because it's not synced. So what this is called is Microsoft's called Selective Sync, which means that if you have a SharePoint site that has, lots of data, the last thing you want to do is sync 100 gigs worth of data with your local machine. You don't want to do that. So what this is Selective Sync, which means it's only going to sync the data that you have actually opened, right? So if I take a look at one of our teams here, right? So here you'll see these are some files that I've actually opened. And then you see the cloud button that says these are files that are actually stored on the cloud, okay? So again, what this does is this does not fill your machine up with data that you may or may not ever access, okay? The other really good thing is, I'm going to come back to this folder again, right, is you'll find that this is really fast, right? So I'm coming in here and I'm looking at data that's really fast, right? So look at all the folders I had, right? So I literally went down 3 levels in a matter of 4 clicks. So again, it's almost like the data is sitting here on your local network. However, that data is sitting in Microsoft SharePoint, right? So the other, I guess, issue that people have had with SharePoint is that, hey, look, it's slow. And by all means, this is not slow, right? Going in here to get access to data and looking at this is not slow, okay? So again, I'm doing it from Windows Explorer. So I necessarily don't have to come out here to the web and get access to data, okay? So just to summarize Up SharePoint a little bit, SharePoint is an online cloud folder structure, okay, that you have the ability to, put something up on the home page. I've seen things, if I show you a little bit more on the home page. So the activity piece is going to show you all of the data that you accessed recently, okay. It's going to show you here on the home page the data folder structure, okay. We have another one that actually has a news feed, right, where we have people just posting things that are going on inside that department, right? So you have some options to use and some flexibility and some collaboration options once you come inside SharePoint. But again, it's primarily currently used for folder structure, where we don't want to store data necessarily on a local server anymore. We want to have access to this. The other good thing about this, and probably one of the most important things, is that, again, when you are typically accessing this data, right, on a local server remotely from your laptop or something along those lines, you are typically using either LogMeIn, some type of remote access tool, or VPN, okay? I am currently not connected to my VPN network, right? But I still have access to all of my SharePoint data, right? So the really good thing about this is no VPN, no LogMeIn, but yet I have access to this data, okay? Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to, and please feel free, I meant to mention this at the beginning, if you do have any questions, I do have the question panel open, so please feel free, okay? Okay, next we're going to talk about Yammer, okay? I am going to come back here. I am going to look at Yammer. Okay, so Yammer. So first, Yammer is a web-based application. So I'm looking at here on the web. It is a desktop application, right? So I have it on my desktop, which I'll show you as well. And it does have a mobile app, so you can install it on your mobile device, okay? So the best way I describe Yammer to customers is if you are familiar with not with SharePoint, but if you are familiar with Facebook, it is basically internal Facebook, okay? That is the best way I can describe it. It's got some added features, but it is basically Facebook. So for those organizations that have, especially now, right, where everybody is working remotely, but if organizations have multiple offices, just like we do, we want to make sure that everybody stays in touch with everybody, okay? It is also a great way to announce changes, policy changes, any type of announcement inside your organization without filling up people's emails, okay? So what we use Yammer for, and I'll show you them, right, is basically for any type of announcements, right? Any type of, hey, look, a customer called up and said that Ryan did a great job in helping them fix a problem, right? So all of those go in here. So you'll see announcement and praise, and I'll show you how to use this. And any type of change that we make to a process, to a procedure, anything along those lines, we'll make this announcement through here, okay? So on our left-hand side, you'll see a couple of groups that we have set up. These groups can be associated with Office 365 groups. Ours particularly are not, because we don't have that many of them. So we'll see here that we have set up basically a social group, okay, an announcements group, and a security group, and an all company group, okay. I'm going to walk you through the demo group, okay. And remember that I'm using the web version. I have the desktop version down here, right, which is basically, if I come in here, it's basically going to show me the same exact thing, right? So I necessarily, again, I don't have to go to the web to post things, to make comments on things. I can use the desktop app, okay? Oh, coming back in here for a second. Okay, so it is very much like SharePoint. So if I want to share something, I can just come in here to the text box and I can share anything I like, okay? So again, I have some options here. I can change the font, right? I can do some bullets if I want. I can put in links if I want. I can make, use the numbering scheme if I want. But I also have over here, you'll find, right, I can upload a file, okay? I can select a file that's already stored here in Yammer, right? I can select a file that's sitting on SharePoint somewhere, or what you'll find when we use it is I can add any kind of GIF I want, right? So I can say, yeah, or let's use, way to go. And you'll see I get, Microsoft's list of GIFs, right? So I want to pick something like this, okay? That will come up like that, and then I'll post it, okay? So now the good thing about this, right, is that now this is posted, right, that anybody can come in here and see, right? Just like in Facebook, I can like it, I can reply, I can share it, right? If I was the person who did it, I can edit it, right? So I have the ability to make comments on any type of post I want, okay? Now, the reason why I showed you this post is because this post, just like in Facebook, right, it's just going to be sitting somewhere, right, that somebody would have to come in and look. If I want to make an announcement, I'm going to click on the announcement button, and it's going to ask me, what do I want to announce? And I'm going to say, praise to Mike. Okay. And here I can put in, Bob called in and said, Mike did a great job. Okay. Now, because I made this announcement, and I made it an announcement, right? All members part of this group, once I post it, is going to get an email basically with this post, okay? So that's the really nice feature about in here too, is that they will get an email directly from Yammer saying that Matt posted, here is the announcement, here are the details, and if I do add a GIF into there, we'll pick Kevin James. Okay, so again, once I post this, I already posted it. So now everybody will get that email with it, okay? I can do a praise as well, right? And I probably should have used Mike as the example as well. So if I want to pick somebody, it's asking me to pick something, right? Somebody, right? So when you pick praise, Mike did a great job, okay? I can't post it, okay, until I pick something that says, who do I want to praise? So if I put in Mike here, okay, now it allows me to post. Okay, and I can see, did somebody reply here? And see that? So Mike actually replied to this post. Nice to hear, thanks, right? So Mike was good enough to put in some feedback there for our demo today, okay? So quite frankly, I am a little hesitant to show you what ours are, but I will go ahead and show you, right? So here's some of our announcements, right? So if I take a look at some of these, we had a new team member come on, right? So you can see everybody kind of commenting them. We had a thing here saying, please stop doing certain things on tickets. New manager Demetrius came on, right? So these are all announcements. If I come to social, these are more birthdays, great job for Jan, team praise, happy birthdays. I think there's a happy anniversary somewhere down here, right? And you can see the funny thing about this is that, if I come back to the demo group, is that most likely all of these things are probably happening inside of your organization now, right? They're just being done typically through email. You're going to get the, what are we doing for lunch? Or, hey, birthday cake for Bob in the lunchroom. Debbie and George just had a baby. Whatever it may be, all of those typically are going to go through email, right? Which again just kind of fills up our mailbox. It takes away our concentration a little bit from what we're doing at that particular time. So we've decided to take all of that off of email and we put it here in Yammer. Okay, and this allows our team to view it when they want, to comment on when they want. Necessary doesn't have to get distracted, throughout the day. And basically it allows us also to keep in touch with each other. Again, in the world that we are currently all living in, with everybody working remotely for the most part, we lose that social interaction a little bit. We lose that Bob's birthday. We lose that somebody did a great job on a presentation, whatever it may be. We lose that a little bit. This Yammer, I think, brings it back. I think it brings it back to keep it outside of email, which I like. I've seen a couple of different marketing companies really use this as their platform to help promote services to their team internally. It's a really good idea for a way to collect ideas from employees. I've seen people use it where they use it as kind of a suggestion box, even though it does have your name on it, right? But it does go into a particular box that nobody has access to besides the one person that's monitoring it, right? So it's not like everybody gets to see. You can do other things inside in here. So if I want to create a question for the company or the group, I could do that. If I wanted to do a poll, I could do that as well. So you do have some more options inside of here. I can drop files in here should I like, right? There is file storage in here, right, too, if I like, and it actually is stored here inside of Yammer. I can always come back and I can go back here and you see my mailbox. So these are the emails that I just have not checked of people posting things inside of the different groups here. So, and you can see that this group here, I've made it private, right? Which basically means is that I have only selected a few members, right? I can make it public, which probably the announcements is, yep. So it's not even a private one, right? So it's a post, right? So, so again, nope, about the demo. So Yammer, a really good way to share data, be collaborative, have that social aspect. I can look at some insights on the group, right? So since I am the owner of this group, I have some options. I can add or remove members. I can create a live event here inside of Yammer. So if I want to do a live presentation for the company, I could, right inside of here. I can look at some insights in the group. I can see how many people posted. I can see the members, non-members. You can open up Yammer to people outside of your organization. I have not seen too many people doing that. Let me see if I come over here to social. I just want to see what the insights are so I can show you what that looks like. So you can see on this particular social one, there are 41 active people. Here are some members. There are some non-members. Posted messages, read messages, people who've liked on it, right? So, very similar to a Facebook page, right? You have some data and some analytics here to look at, and right now we're looking at the last 7 days. I can look at 28 days. I can look at the past 12 months, should I want, right? You can see how much more posts there are. So again, Yammer, really used for that social, internal Facebook type. SharePoint, cloud storage, folder structure, not having the data on the server anymore, having access to that data at any given time from pretty much anywhere with no VPNs, no log me in. There is some time and effort in migrating data from the existing folder and folder structure to SharePoint. I can tell you that our project team, typically what they'll do is they'll go and they'll look at all of the different shared folders on a particular server. They will put it in a spreadsheet. They'll ask you to create groups, and they'll ask you where this folder is going to move. Where is it going to move to? What group is it going to move to? We are extremely detailed with that because the last thing that we want to do is move a folder to a particular group that shouldn't have access to it. So we double and triple check that. Also, at the same time, it's a great way for customers to go through and clean out their folder structure. I know what a daunting task that is, but every once in a while we need to clean up, right? We need to declutter and get rid of some data and to go through the folder structure and make sure we're looking at active data, and anything that maybe is not active we archive somewhere else. Again, the fact that I have access to the data pretty much from anywhere, via my corporate laptop, really helps me because I don't need VPN. I really just need an internet connection, and any file that I have already opened on my machine, I'll have access to it because it does sync it down to my machine. All right, let me look to see if there's any questions I can come up that I can answer. So give me 1 second here. What changes from the user perspective if you are following or not following a site from the SharePoint side? Nothing really. It just makes it more accessible. So if I come back here to SharePoint, right, if I am following a site, I have a filter right here that allows me to only look at following sites. But besides that, it does not have any other really functionality if you are following the site or not. Let me see if there's any other questions. Are the groups inside of SharePoint and Teams identical? Yes, they typically are. They don't necessarily have to be, but yes, they typically are. When you do create an Office 365 group, that does create automatically the SharePoint site. It does not necessarily have to create the team. We typically do create the team behind it, but it does not have to. So that would really be the only difference. Again, going back to Yammer for a second, the Yammer groups are totally separate. They can be still associated with Office 365 groups. They don't necessarily have to be. Ours are not. Let me see if I have any other questions in here. And these are great questions, by the way. I think that's it. So again, want to thank you for taking some time out today and having a late lunch with myself. Please keep an eye out for our next session. I know we have a couple coming up. We have web marketing coming up. We have VDI, which is basically a cloud desktop, which really eliminates all servers on site. So we have some other ones coming up next week. So again, thanks for attending. Hope everybody stays healthy and safe. And if you have any questions or would like more information on SharePoint or Yammer, please feel free to reach out to either your NST account manager or myself. Thanks again. Be safe.